Hey everybody, what's up from Pokemon Classics, reminding you that the classics, like Mountain Dew Baja Blast, never goes out of style. Today's part 2 of my PSA returns video, and almost a year ago I sent off one of my largest PSA orders to date, 260 cards, and after waiting for almost a year, they've finally returned, and I'm really excited to showcase them here for the world. Now, some of the things that I think this video could be helpful for is taking a look at how PSA's standards are recently being implemented. I am noticing some deviations from previous orders, and maybe that'll help you guys as you're taking a look at your own cards and assessing condition. Anyway, if you see anything you like in this video, many of these cards are extras for me and will be going up for sale on my eBay store. I'll leave a link in the description down below. It is an affiliate link, so I just want to be clear about that. I do get a kickback from that, a commission, but it helps support me and the channel, but no obligation for that. Anyway, specifically today we're going to be taking a look at First Edition Fossil, as well as First Edition Team Rocket. And then a couple of my favorite sets personally are the Gym sets, Gym Challenge and Gym Hero. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into some PSA returns. All right, so first up, we're starting things out right with the First Edition Holographic Dragonite. And this one pulled a PSA 9, which I think is a great grade for this card. It is one of the more difficult ones from the Fossil set to grade, and I love the rainbow holographic pattern in the background. This Dragonite is just looking really sweet and innocent in the photo, and that's something that I've always thought was iconic about this artwork. Very popular card. The back on this one's pretty clean. It's definitely a good hit to start things off here, so excited about that. Next up is Articuno, and this is another one of the cards in the set that's actually incredibly difficult to grade. This one received the 8.5, which if you watch my earlier video, that seems to be one of those oddball grades that doesn't show up very often. Yet I got a number of those half grades in this submission, which is a little bit unpredicted. Having said that, this one's a pretty nice one, the back's nice, and it's Articuno. You gotta love Articuno. Going into the third card is another one that graded pretty well, and that's the First Edition Holographic Haunter. One of the things that I always thought was interesting about Fossil set is you have two evolutions in the same line with holographic cards. You get Haunter and Gengar. So I've always liked Haunter better personally. I know I might take some heat for that, but PSA 9 on this one, definitely a great card. It's not one of the harder ones to acquire or one of the more desirable ones in high level grade, but it's definitely a good looking one, and I remember that one being pretty effective to use in a deck. Sticking with the psychic theme, we've got Hypno up next, and very solid background on this one. It's basically just purple, something that I think Prince would fully support if he were still around to love on Pokemon. Anyway, 9 is a solid grade. Many of these cards that I sent, I was predicting grades ranging from 7s to 8s to 9s. A lot of the cards that would traditionally be eligible for 10s are ones that I've previously submitted in past orders. So excited for the 9 there. It's a good grade. Coming up next, we've got one of the coolest looking artworks, I think, in Fossil, and that's Kabutops. And this one also took home the 9, and you gotta love those blades for hands. You know, between Kabutops and Scyther, they both have swords for arms, and I always thought those two were really cool, especially if they did a duel with swords. I mean, I feel like there's a good episode in the anime waiting to happen there. This one, very clean copy. 9 is a great grade, especially on vintage cards. Can't be too concerned about that. So we'll add that one to the pile and move on to the next one, which here happens to be Lapras. Now, Lapras is the most difficult card to grade in the Fossil set, especially in a PSA 10. The 9s and 8s, not quite as valuable, but they are very susceptible to holo scratching and factory production lines, and generally that's a calling card of those PSA 8 level grades. So you're gonna find that on these cards. That is the case with this one, which you can kind of see, but still First Edition, still a holographic card, still vintage. You gotta love it. Moving on to our next card, we've got the one that nobody wanted to open from a booster pack. You're getting a holographic card. That was really the only consolation, because here we have Muck. Now, I can't discredit Muck entirely, because Muck was pretty effective for Ash in the anime when he was competing in the Pokemon League. Having said that, not the type of card that you generally want to open. This one got a 9. It's a solid card. It's actually one of the ones that's easiest to grade just due to that darker holofoil background. Then we have Raichu. And for some reason, I actually have far more Raichu cards from Fossil Set in my collection than any of the other holographics. Back in the day, I would buy collections and I would store the cards and kind of go through them. And so I'm not sure how I acquired more Raichus than the other holographics in the set, but it's a good one. One of the things that I never really cared for about this Raichu is I think the artworks on some of the other early Raichus are far more dynamic. The Dark Raichu one is probably my favorite, if I'm being honest. Here's the second one. And going back to the artwork, like, you'll notice that this Raichu is a little more plump, a little more friendly looking. He's not really looking like he's in attack mode right here, or that he's been training. So I don't know if that's insulting to Raichu. That's not my intention. But it's just not my favorite Raichu artwork out there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Which Raichu do you like the best? I mean, you can't go wrong with base set. But really, for me, I think it's that Dark Raichu where it's just leaping off the canvas right at you. Speaking of Raichus, here's the third one. This one took home the PSA 8, which I think was an entirely fair grade. It does have a couple like print lines across the surface. And as you'll see on the back here, it's very off-center, especially if we're looking from top to bottom, maybe even a little bit from side to side, but you'll notice that that top border is significantly larger than the bottom border. And that is something that gets taken into consideration when PSA does their grades. Moving on to the next one, we are getting into the first edition Team Rocket cards now. And here we have Dark Blastoise, and this is one of my favorite artworks of all time from Wizards of the Coast. It's got that hydro cannon pointed right at the viewer. This one got the PSA 9. It's a solid grade on a solid card. Pretty good centering on the back, and just all around a really amazing artwork. So that's one of my favorites personally. I actually sent 2 of them. This one got the 8. That's what I was expecting on this one. In fact, I thought they both were in the 8 to 9 range, with one for sure being an 8. And no surprises there. Still a gorgeous card, and an 8 grade, I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think is underrated to some degree, especially for the really desirable Wizards of the Coast cards. As those upper echelon grades start getting removed from circulation, I do think we will see a trickle-down effect into some of those PSA 7 and 8 ranges. Next up is another one of the big ones from the Team Rocket set, and that's Dark Dragonite. This one also got the 8, which I think is entirely fair. That is the grade that I had projected for this card, and I love the sparkle of the holographic behind Dragonite here. This is also a card that I used pretty frequently in decks when I was younger, generally the non-holo version. That whole evolutionary line with the Dark Dragonair, very effective for summoning cards. So, love Dark Dragonite, first edition, can't go wrong with that, and that holographic sparkle is just really, really impressive. Next we have Dark Magneton, and this is another one of the oddball grades. Here we have another 7.5, and this grade is incredibly uncommon in Wizards of the Coast cards, but yet here it is. I actually got, I think, 7.5s in my order. And one of the things that could be said about Dark Magneton is there is a lot of holographic pattern to it, and it's really light in color, so it is more susceptible to surface scratching and to print lines. And I know that's one of the reasons why it's such a difficult card to grade, especially in that PSA 10 level. Having said that, the back of this one's pretty clean, but the 7.5, I was kind of expecting a 7 or an 8. I guess we could split the difference there. Next, we've got Dark Slowbro, and I think this is one of the cards that gets overlooked in Wizards of the Coast and Team Rocket set. You've got the Rocket Henchman hanging out in the background, which is a nice touch. This one got a PSA 9. It's a pretty solid grade for that card. And then we have the one that I love, Dark Raichu, my favorite Raichu artwork, just leaping off. And this was actually the first Wizards of the Coast secret rare card. It was 83 out of 82. And I guess that's debatable. Some people might suggest that the Ivy Pikachu from Jungle was the first secret rare. That kind of depends on the way you look at it, and there's maybe a little bit of documentation to support that, but still, Dark Raichu, chase card, 7.5 grade, still a pretty good card. That's going to do it for the Team Rocket cards and the Fossil cards, so next we're going to shift into the gym sets, and these are some of my favorites. Speaking of which, let's start with an iconic card that happens to have a swirl, and that's Blaine's Moltres. One of the best artworks, I would argue, in Wizards of the Coast. And this one got a PSA 8, which is a really solid grade for this card. You'll notice it has 5 energies, and that's one of the distinctions that this card was like the first of, is to have that 5 energy. Back, really clean. Front, couple of print lines and surface scratches, but otherwise, beautiful card. Next is Misty's Seadra. This card originally came in a pre-release variant. However, this is the non-pre-release, the one that you could get from booster packs. It's first edition. A lot of sparkle here. Not one of the highly desirable cards in the set, but still a good staple. And this one's pretty clean. It does have a little dot of edgeware in the back corner, but it's still nice. Next up is one of my favorites, and that's Sabrina's Gengar. This one has a lot of holofoil surface. It is a difficult grade. And interestingly, the Japanese version is a little bit different than the English version. In the Japanese one, there was tombstones in the background, and they faded those out from the artwork in English, maybe because it wasn't as child-friendly or due to the religious connotations. But I think the Japanese one is actually more vivid than the English one, and the preferable artwork, if you ask me. Anyway, taking a look at the back side of this one, again, kind of the theme of this submission, really clean backs, occasional surface issues, and that's very common with PSA 8s. Getting into Gym Challenge, one of my favorites is Blaine's Arcanine, and this was the first card that featured 120 tack damage, which was pretty iconic at the time. This one's a near mint PSA 7, which I think is still a pretty good grade, and one that's a bit underrated at the moment. It's a really good card. It's one that I think has a lot of support within the community for that artwork. Then we've got Erica's Venusaur. This one was a PSA 8, and this is another one that I like a lot. Holographic is great on this one. The Venusaur artwork I think is fantastic as well, and tough to grade in a PSA 10. So this one got the 8, still a solid grade there. Then we have Koga's Ditto. Now this one did get the 9, and that's not surprising to me because there is not a lot of hollow surface on this one. Koga's Ditto takes up most of the cards, so that takes away some of that susceptibility to scratching. This one got the PSA 9. Again, pretty solid grade there. Taking a look at the back. Borders are looking nice. There's a little white dot down in the bottom corner, but that's nothing to be too concerned about. So pretty strong 9, I think. Then we have a tough one to grade, Misty's Golduck. This is one of the most difficult cards to grade in all of Gym Challenge, and this one I was pretty confident was going to return an 8 because there are some print lines on the surface of the holo, but overall, really clean card and a highly desirable one, especially if you can capture it in a PSA 10, which is going to be a tough one to find and a tough one to acquire. I actually sent a couple of them. This other one also got a PSA 8, which is exactly what I'd predicted, so I guess it's a little bit validating in those situations when the grades come in as expected, because that's not always the case. Speaking of not being the case, that is the case with Misty's Gyarados. This one got an 8.5, and again, those 8.5 grades are not something that I personally want to see. I would rather have an 8 or a 9. Maybe it's a bit of OCD on my part, but I like to have even number grades. That's one of the reasons why I go with PSA rather than some of the other grading companies. But still a good card, and still good condition. You can't go wrong with Gyarados as well. Gyarados is one of the classics, and you guys know me. I'm all about the classics. My favorite Pokemon in the original set is Alakazam. Now, Sabrina's Alakazam has an amazing artwork, especially with the spoons and like the lightning between them. This one, though, originally came out in the Sabrina deck, but only in Unlimited. So the first edition one you'd have to get from a booster pack. So that one's a good one. And I actually sent in 2 of those. One got the 9, and then another 8.5 grade here. And I just got leveled on this submission with 8.5 grades, which is okay, but I've never seen so many in one submission. So these are looking pretty nice. This one does have a dot on the back corner as well. But overall, really solid card. And I gotta support my boy, Alakazam. Definitely one of my favorite Pokemon in the series. Actually, it is my favorite Pokemon in the series. And, you know, he's got the spoons. What more can I say? You gotta have those spoons. And we've got some trainers, starting with Blaine. And that's one of the things I always appreciated from the gym sets, is that they incorporated all of the trainers from the games and from the anime and gave them their own holographics. And holographic trainers are not generally what people get excited for when opening packs. I actually sent in 2 Blaines, and just like the first one, the second one also received the PSA 9. So pretty good centering, good holographic surface, maybe a couple small minor issues or dots of edge wear on the back, but you can't go wrong with those. And again, I think it's really cool that they incorporated them into the set. I actually prefer Gym Challenge personally, and one of my favorite trainer cards here is Giovanni. It's actually my second favorite out of all of them, but Giovanni's looking pretty smug. He's classy with his clothes on here, and he's kind of giving off that evil vibe that you would expect from the leader of Team Rocket. So on the back side, again, pretty clean one, maybe a couple dots of edge wear on the back, but another nice one. Moving on, we've got Koga. I don't know what's up with this stance. Koga's like flexing on everyone, I think, and he's got designer clothes. I feel like he'd be wearing Gucci or some other, maybe Supreme. I don't know, maybe not Supreme, but he's a well-dressed guy, I'll just say that. And he's flaunting it. He knows it. I do really like the colors on the background of this one. It has a splash of a lot of different colors. So I do think that gets underrated a little bit. But when we're talking about underrated, we have to go with my favorite of the gym leaders, and that's Sabrina. In my mind, she was the most intimidating in the show. I mean, Ash even had to recruit a Haunter to help take on Sabrina. She had the Kadabra, and it wasn't easy for Ash. Even in the image here, she's like levitating her badge, and that's pretty scary. Like, that's an intimidating gym leader to go head to head with. So power to the females here in terms of the gym leaders. Sabrina, definitely my favorite one. Anyway, that's all the cards from the gym sets that I sent in this order, and all of the cards from Fossil as well as the Team Rocket sets. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up part 2 of the PSA submission return video. Really excited to have these cards back in my collection. Again, if there's anything that you see that you like, I'll leave a link down below for my eBay store. Many of these cards will be up for sale. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, so there is a commission if you choose to use it, but don't feel obligated to it all. That is not what this channel is about. I just want to share these cards with you and take a look back through some of the vintage artwork. Anyway, let me know what you think. Which of these cards are your favorite? And until next time, remember, I'm Pokemon Classics, and the classics never go out of style. We'll see you guys with the next video. Bye, everybody.